So does black coffee break your fast? Does it eradicate all the benefits that you would normally get from fasting when you have that single cup of joe? Well, I'm going to break it down in this video. And I'm going to give you some food for thought when it comes down to what you're truly trying to get out of your fast. All right, let's get down to the science for a minute. So when you look at coffee, we have to really understand what we're trying to get from both coffee, but also what we're trying to get out of our fast. Okay, we know that coffee can induce some kind of fat burning effects. We also know that fasting can induce all kinds of fat burning effects. But we have to look at when they work together and when they don't. You see, if you are fasting because you're trying to completely abstain from food and beverages altogether, then it's pretty simple. It's pretty cut and dry. No, you shouldn't have coffee. But if you're trying to fast because you're looking for metabolic effects and the autophagy effects, which is where you basically recycle cells and consolidate cells, then actually coffee can be very beneficial for you. And I'm going to help you understand in this video. Okay, so when we look at fasting, we have to look at the two key benefits that most of us are probably seeking out. One is fat loss. Okay? Fasting boosts fat loss via the production of catecholamines, adrenaline, noradrenaline, epinephrine, stimulating what is called hormone-sensitive lipase. Basically, it turns on fat burning at the cellular and hormonal level. Okay, but additionally, fasting has a huge benefit when it comes down to autophagy. I sound like a broken record because you've probably heard me talk about this in other videos, but autophagy is simply where the body recycles cells. So if we have old cells that are kind of decrepit and not doing a good job anymore, stronger cells are going to go through and they're going to eat those cells and they're going to consolidate and become one stronger cell. So basically, autophagy, when you're in a fuel-deprived state, encourages cells to get stronger by getting rid of the weaker ones. All right, this sounds like a great thing, right? Well, guess what? Coffee has now been shown to boost autophagy, even when you're not fasting. So let's break this down a little bit. Autophagy requires what is called the inhibition of mammalian target of rapamycin, also known as mTOR. Okay, what mTOR is a very anabolic pathway. And I don't want you to freak out when I say that we need to reduce mTOR. It does not mean that you're going to lose your muscle. Okay, autophagy by definition is not anabolic. Okay, so anabolic means you're building muscle, it means you're growing, it means cells are growing. Literally, by definition, autophagy is the breakdown and the recycling and the consolidation of cells. In no way, shape, or form could that ever be construed as anabolic. So don't freak out. But anyway, I'm going to make some sense of all of this. There was a study that was published in the journal Cell Cycle, and it took a look at two different groups. Okay, and these two different groups were given either caffeinated coffee or decaffeinated coffee. And they wanted to measure what would happen to autophagy after the consumption of either decaf or caffeinated coffee. Well, guess what? After 1 to 4 hours of consuming the coffee, decaf or not, there was a massive increase in autophagy. That means the level of autophagosomes had increased, producing more of a cell recycling effect after any kind of coffee. So what they've found is that the polyphenols in either decaf or regular initiate the inhibition of mTOR. And this inhibition of mTOR is what allows us to start autophagy. So we turn off the anabolic system temporarily so that the cells can recycle and do their job. So what this tells us is that we get a double whammy effect. We get sort of a perfect storm. We are already getting autophagy benefits from fasting in the first place. But now by adding coffee into the mix, we boost that even more by shutting down mammalian target of rapamycin. We just enhanced our fasting effect. We didn't blunt it like some people will say by having coffee. Again, are you after a physiological, scientific result, or are you fasting for a different purpose? Okay, we do have to look at the big picture here. If you're fasting for religious purposes or for purposes like that, whole different ballgame. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about doing it for the physiological and the mental benefit. Now there's another thing that we have to factor in too, and this comes from a study that was published in the Biochemical and Biophysical Research Communications Journal. And this study took a look at caffeine's effect on autophagy. So we already know that decaf and caffeinated coffee have the same effect on mTOR when it comes down to the polyphenols. But what about the caffeine? So we found that caffeine actually stimulates the upregulation of what is called AMP kinase, so AM protein kinase. Okay, this AMPK gets upregulated, and it's in a calcium-deprived AMPK upregulation that this occurs, and that causes autophagy to stimulate through its own pathway. Okay, that was complex. Basically, all it means is that caffeine stimulates a particular mechanism in the body, an enzymatic activity, that only occurs when you're in a fuel-deprived state otherwise. So the consumption of caffeine triggered autophagy through a different pathway. Okay, in case you're not tracking with me, do you know what this means? This means you literally have a trifecta here. Fasting, promoting autophagy in and of itself. Then you have the inhibition of mammalian target of rapamycin. That's inducing autophagy in and of itself. Then you have the caffeine actually stimulating the upregulation of AMPK. Okay, a whole different pathway to stimulate autophagy. That's 3 different ways that you're stimulating autophagy. So to me, whether you are after the fat loss benefits or the autophagy benefits, black coffee is beneficial in a fasted state. So if you're looking for a clean, wholehearted fast, then yes, you're going to keep the black coffee out of the equation. And for those of you that were wondering, the inhibition of mTOR, the whole anabolic switching off kind of thing, I don't want you to freak out at all, because guess what? After you break your fast, mTOR elevates significantly. Okay, so when you break your fast, you're not going to be in an autophagy state anymore. Okay, you're not going to be recycling cells. You broke your fast, you spiked your insulin, you're in your feeding window, it's a whole different world now. But the cool thing is, the induction of food into your body creates this massive increase in mammalian target of rapamycin. So what that means is that even though you have autophagy occurring and you may not be anabolic during your fasting period, the moment that you eat, mTOR kicks on and you have the ability to put on gobs of muscle in a way that you ordinarily wouldn't be able to. So don't freak out. The inhibition of mTOR is perfectly necessary and perfectly good. And in the long run, it's going to allow you to build more muscle and burn more fat. So again, look at all the videos you want, determine whether coffee is for you. But for me, if I'm intermittent fasting, I'm going to consume black coffee. It doesn't really matter to me. I like the effects. So as always, keep it locked in here on my channel. If you have ideas for future videos, put them down in the comment section below, and I'll pin the favorite and which one we'll do next. See you soon.